Last time, we looked at some of what's on record. Things that fell from clear skies, things that turned the color of blood. The ship's captain who logged something geometric traveling against the wind. Tonight, we look at the other side of the file, the explanations. The official record of what scientists and journals and men of standing determined had actually happened. I want to be fair to them. These were serious people. These were serious institutions. I'm just going to read what they wrote. Take it from there. 1. The Vulture Defense. March 3rd, 1876, Bath County, Kentucky. Last time we established that flakes of what appeared to be raw beef fell from a clear sky onto a strip of land 100 yards long and 50 yards wide. Two scientists examined the material and tasted it. The explanation, as it appears in the Scientific American. A group of vultures, flying overhead, became startled simultaneously and disgorged the contents of their stomachs. The material then fell in flakes. Some flakes were 2 inches square, some were the size of a square envelope. The explanation requires us to accept several things. First, that a group of vultures were flying over Bath County, Kentucky in close enough formation that their simultaneous disgorging produced a localized shower confined to a strip 100 yards by 50 yards. Second, that vulture's stomach contents, which are primarily acid and partially digested matter, would fall in cleanly identifiable flakes up to 4 inches square. Third, that what startled them at all at exactly the same moment is not addressed. Fourth, and perhaps most importantly, that two scientists of standing, upon encountering a substance that had fallen from a clear sky, tasted it and concluded it was probably bear. The vulture explanation is on record. 2. The pail of water. February 11th, 1859. Mountain Ash, Valley of Aberdare, Glamorganshire. Fish fell from the sky onto a strip of land 80 yards long and 12 yards wide. They fell twice, within a 10-minute interval between the two falls, onto the same strip of land. Some of these fish were still alive. They were taken to the zoological gardens at Regent's Park, where they were exhibited. The editor of the Zoologist published the account. Dr. Gray of the British Museum reviewed the evidence. Dr. Gray's explanation. One of Mr. Nixon's employees had thrown a pail full of water at another employee as a practical joke, and the second employee, being wet, assumed fish in the water had fallen from the sky. He had, in Dr. Gray's estimation, dipped the pail in a nearby brook. The editor of the Zoologist agreed this was no doubt correct. A subsequent correspondent pointed out, apologetically, noting his reluctance to oppose so high an authority as Dr. Gray, that he'd obtained fish from persons living at considerable distance from one another, too far apart to be reached by a single pail of water. The editor did not respond. The fish at the zoological gardens at Regent's Park continued to be exhibited. Pail of water explanation is on record. 3. The fungus. August 13th, 1819. Amherst, Massachusetts. Last time we established that an object fell from the sky with a brilliant light and the sound of an explosion. It was bowl-shaped, 8 inches across, buff-colored, with a fine nap on its surface. It smelled offensively. Upon exposure to air, it turned the color of venous blood and then liquefied. Professor Graves examined it. Professor Dewey examined it. Their account was published in the American Journal of Science. Years passed. Professor Hitchcock moved to Amherst. He reports that a second object, identical in every respect, was found near the same location. He examined it. He recognized it immediately. It was, he said, a gelatinous fungus. He did not identify the specific species. He noted, however, that he expected similar fungi to appear within 24 hours. Before evening, two others appeared. The explanation offered by Professor Hitchcock requires us to accept that a gelatinous fungus of unspecified species produces objects 8 inches in diameter that fall from the sky with brilliant light and explosive sound. That this same fungus turns the color of venous blood upon exposure to open air, that it smells suffocating, that it reliably produces companion fungi within hours, and that this species is not identified anywhere in the scientific literature either before or after Professor Hitchcock's visit. The fungus explanation is on record. 4. The whirlwind specifically. This one requires some setup. The standard explanation for living things falling from the sky, frogs, fish, small animals, is the whirlwind. A whirlwind, the argument goes, picks things up from one location and deposits them in another. Charles Fort, who compiled these records, noted several problems with this explanation as it applied in practice. First, a whirlwind is not selective. It picks up everything in its path: mud, debris, vegetation, rocks, whatever is present. Yet the recorded falls of frogs contain only frogs. The recorded falls of fish contain only fish, not mixed with mud or sticks or anything else. Second, nobody can identify the whirlwind. In all the cases Ford examined where whirlwind is cited as explanation, only one account identified a specific whirlwind. That account did not identify a specific pond that had lost its frogs. Third, in the case of mountain ash, the fish fell twice, 10 minutes apart, onto the same 80 by 12-yard strip of land. Fort notes that a whirlwind, even one standing still on its axis, discharges tangentially. It does not deliver the same cargo twice to the same narrow strip. Fourth, and Fort considered this the most significant, in all his research he could find no documented instance of tadpoles falling from the sky. Only adult frogs, never tadpoles. A whirlwind does not sort by developmental stage. The whirlwind explanation appears in the Monthly Weather Review, Notes and Queries, Zoologist, Simon's Meteorological Magazine, and numerous other publications. And yes, you guessed it, the whirlwind explanation is on record. 5. The hoax specifically. Wilson County, Tennessee. Blood and portions of flesh found scattered across tobacco fields. Dr. Troost visited the location personally, examined the material, filed a report in the American Journal of Science, concluding it was genuine and likely the result of a whirlwind depositing animal remains. His report is in Volume 41, page 404. The retraction appears in Volume 44, page 216. The retraction states on newspaper authority that the event was a hoax. Ford observed the following about this retraction. The retraction is sourced not to anyone who visited the field, not to Dr. Troost, revising his own findings, not to any physical examination of the material or the location. It is sourced to a newspaper. The newspaper account stated that the hoax had been carried out by, and I'm paraphrasing the language of 1841 here, the original phrasing being of its time, by enslaved persons who wished to practice on the credulity of their masters. The American Journal of Science printed this explanation and considered the matter closed. Dr. Troost did not, as far as the record shows, respond. And again, say it with me, the newspaper explanation is on record. 6. The Mayan Stone. This one is slightly different. It does not involve something falling from the sky. It involves something found on the ground that could not be explained and so was explained anyway. Scientific American, September 10th, 1910. A large stone, approximately 8 feet at its longest axis, was found in the valley of the Yaqui, Mexico. On its eastern face, cut deeply into the rock, were inscriptions. Major Frederick Burnham of the British Army reported the stone. Charles F. Holder accompanied him on a return visit to examine and decipher the inscriptions. Mr. Holder concluded the inscriptions were Mayan. He submitted photographs to the Field Museum and the Smithsonian Institute. Both replied they could make nothing of it. Ford examined Mr. Holder's identification method and noted the following. Mr. Holder selected the characters from the inscription that resembled Mayan symbols and identified those. He disregarded the characters that did not resemble anything known. Ford observed that by this method, the same inscription could be identified as belonging to any writing system, including none at all. The Smithsonian and the Field Museum together could make nothing of the inscription. The inscription remains on the stone. The stone remains in the valley of the Yaqui. The Mayan explanation is on record. 6 explanations, all of them filed by serious people in serious institutions, all of them on record. I want to be clear, I'm not saying any of these explanations are wrong. I'm saying they're what's in the file. If you have a better one, write it down. File it somewhere. That's how we got here. This has been on record. Felix Lebeski. SL Tonight. Like, comment, subscribe. And join us again for more weird facts and stories and music and other nonsense. I'll see you next time. Night.